Hi, my name is Rob Ryder, speaking out of West Cornwall in England. I'd like to do this is a follow-on video from the previous video, which was living in the mind of God. Do we really exist? And this is one is about probably called Death, a holistic viewpoint. So just a quick reflection on the last video and what I was saying, which I hope people didn't get it the wrong way, was that I believe we live in the universal mind. There's a chap called Rupert Spira says that the only thing in existence is activity in the mind of God, the creator. So I've said before, my definition of the creator is imagination, and reality is imagination made manifest. You could potentially go deeper than that, because we go back to this book again I wrote with Patrick Quanton, A Conscious Humanity, Morality, Freedom and Natural Law. So if we have this stillness in the sea that I mentioned in the last video, there's potential for everything, but there's nothing there but the potential for everything. And then if creation is a thought in the mind of God, should we say, which creates a vibration which manifests what is perceived as physical matter. Now, there would have to be a reason for that mind to want to create. And a lot of people, which I understand and I'm not disagreeing with, but obviously the issue, it comes down to definitions, is they say love is the force that made God want to manifest reality, should we say. I only reflect on a little bit in the book when I went traveling, didn't really know what I was doing, went away for a couple of years, but I'd been traveling a little bit before that, and then when I went on a big trip for a couple of years, I was trying to learn things and found out things that I didn't really know of at the time. So you kind of get a feeling, I put it there, a feeling of something isn't quite right. So I knew, I wasn't even conscious of it, but I just felt, should we say, that there were things I needed to know, and I could only find them out if I just packed my bag and went, which I did for a couple of years, to various places, North, Central, South America. And I believe I had a desire, should we say, to gain knowledge via experience, and just a desire to experience. So one year there was things I instinctively felt I didn't know that I felt I could find traveling. So I had a desire to gain knowledge via experience, but also a desire just to travel just for the hell of it, just for the whole adventure of it. So and this is a personal thing. I'm not saying this is a fact. This is my personal, from my own personal experience. I see why the creator wanted to manifest reality was that desire to know itself, and a desire just for the hell of it to have an adventure, to play and discover and create. So that's my understanding of even what that force is. A lot of people will say that force is love, and I've got no problem with that, but you have to define what you mean by that. I also stated in the video that what we are saying is evil, what we perceive as evil, so deliberately causing harm and suffering to other people on this planet is evil. And that I'm saying evil therefore has to be an expression of the creator of God, because nothing exists outside of God, outside of the creator, outside of nature. Nothing exists outside of the universal mind. Nothing is created that isn't created by the universal mind. But I'm not saying God is evil, the creator is evil, because I also stated on the other talk that I believe woven into the nature of reality is what we call in the book the subtitle, which was the subtitle, was a title of a talk I did a few years ago locally, Morality, Freedom and Natural Law. So I believe morality, freedom and natural law are woven into the fabric of reality. So you have what you would say natural law, physics, you know, the physical laws of experience of the universe. Morality is the inner law, should we say, of behavior. And the reason why you can't say God is evil, and I say evil is an expression of God, but it's an unbalanced expression, because freedom is woven into the human experience, because we're not only conscious, we're conscious of our consciousness, we're self-aware, and we have a freedom. Like going back to other videos I've done, in the Garden of Eden, if the story, should we say, I'm not saying it was real, but the story of Adam and Eve, if they continued to live under freedom, morality and natural law, should we say, they would have lived in peace and prospered. But with their ego mind, they chose to decide they knew better, and that to go their own way would be better, but it's ended in pain and suffering. Because the morality and natural law that is woven into the fabric of this reality is there for our benefit. We've been given free will because we're creative beings. We have this godlike imagination that the animals don't have, because we have an expanded consciousness and connection, even though everything's connected, but our awareness, we have this self-awareness and creativity that other animals don't have. It gives us the choice to live out of the boundaries of those laws, shall we say, inner laws of morality and outer laws of physics. So they're not necessarily punishments, the consequences built into the fabric of reality to keep us on track, to keep it a moral reality. And obviously the creator has a purpose with the reality. We call it evolution. We don't know exactly what things are evolving into, but the true evolution is the evolution of consciousness. It's not a physical thing. The evolution of consciousness can manifest physical changes, adaptations. So if the universal consciousness is whole, infinite, and it's fragmented itself in all these contracted, localized areas to perceive and experience, and I'm one of them, then it seems that true evolution, the evolution of consciousness, is every individual consciousness is coming back to the whole. So it's growing to expand. That seems a natural thing in nature. This desire to expand and grow. You see it everywhere in nature. We want to grow. Why did I go traveling? I felt I needed to learn and grow. I needed that experience to do it, and it was fun. So it's a fun way to learn and grow. Why? Because we want to expand our consciousness again. Because to live in this reality, our consciousness has come down so contracted to see a very individual perspective. But it seems that it's built in to evolution, again, which is evolution of consciousness, that we want to go back to being whole again. You can relate that. And that doesn't mean you're not being yourself, you're just being more than yourself. So, as I said before, I'm one consciousness in the human consciousness. So the human consciousness would be a collection of all human consciousnesses. Just like the cells in my body, 70 trillion, have their own tiny consciousness, very contracted, having an own individual experience, probably unaware that it's part of this enormous body, which is mine, which I'm having a bigger expanded experience. So the expansion of consciousness seems to what it's everything evolving to. And that means as your consciousness expands, the physical body will need to change and adapt to allow the extra input of information so it can respond in a different way, which will break the boundaries of the control on our life. Yeah, it will break limitations, and then in billions of years we will become God consciousness itself. This could be, I'm just throwing this out there. So I'm not an educated person at all. I never went to college or anything like that. I've just processed this and thought logically, because I have a desire to do it. I believe that's inbuilt in me. And cleaning windows for a living, you're outdoors a lot, you're on your own a lot, and you have a lot of time to think, to process these thoughts. But working with Patrick, who has studied the hard sciences, it helps to put these things in a scientific manner with him. And somebody put a link on the last video to a chap called Chris Langan, allegedly the cleverest man in the world, 200 IQ, who seems to think, again, he can do all the details, unlike me, but be thinking on a similar path. So I'd just like to read one bit. I wrote to Patrick many years ago, because we've been communicating and working together and doing seminars together and all sorts of stuff together, writing books together since 2014. And I understood the mind and the brain were the same thing, but I needed to, he puts it into better words. So this was an email I got years ago for him, just to put it into the mind-brain relationship. Indeed, it is simple. Energy creates matter. Matter is a condensation of energy. Mind has no matter and is therefore simple energy. Matter comes later. One may say matter is formed through the mind and functions through the mind. What happens with consciousness, and specifically with the conscious mind? The senses open up the conscious mind. It is the information picked through the senses that will make us aware of the environment, of the reality, but seen in a specific way, and that is the way of the brain. The nervous system interprets the incoming information. The brain plays an important part in the conscious mind. It plays no part in the mind itself. The conscious mind works through the matter and is linked to the brain function. The mind is an energy field that just is. The conscious mind is intrinsically linked to an individual. The mind exists without a body. Patrick speaking. So that's saying that the body is a vessel, even though everything's made up out of consciousness. Yeah, we can say that. But the body is a vessel for mind to experience this reality in a very particular way as this particular individual. I'm a unique creation, just because every individual human being is a unique creation. So the human energy field can experience the whole of human interaction via all them fragmented minds, just as the whole universal mind, God the creator, is experienced the whole universe through all, to an extent, all the atoms in the universe. Because if you look up at a definition of consciousness, to be conscious, there's probably lots of definitions, but the simplest one is the ability to receive information from the environment, process it, and respond. Now, yeah, AI, a computer could probably do that, but what we're talking about with human consciousness is imagination, which AI computers haven't got. We're conscious of our consciousness. We're self-aware. We have a connection to God consciousness. And what's my definition of God? Imagination. That's something computers will never have. They'll never have what we can have. So trying to evolve, which we go into the book, I won't go too much into this, via AI is just insanity and is blasphemy, basically, even though I'm not a religious person. So this video then is mainly looking at a holistic view of death. So if mind exists apart from the body or the brain is what opens up the conscious mind to this reality, then at death, you have no conscious connection, should we say, to this particular reality, but your mind is still there. Yeah. So whatever is absorbed into your mind is still there. Your mind field is still there within the human mind field, but you cannot access through the senses this reality because you've got no brain anymore. You're dead. Now, if the universe has its path, what it's chosen, and it's going in one direction only, then if you go with it, life will be easy and peaceful. If you fight against it, it will be painful because we're not, we are a contracted bit of consciousness of God. So to think we know better is just utter nonsense. It's a joke. So you give in to the intelligence of nature and go with it and accept that basically we're morons. Yeah. So you look to the intelligence of nature knowing that you don't know better. If you're going against it, you're going to suffer. Now, if nature has a path, regardless of what we think, then things that are on that path are going to have to be discarded. Now, I was thinking about death, and if you look at the human body, how we go, well, for example, grow from a baby to an adult. You're growing. Now, I can't remember when I was a 6-month-old baby. Then you have vague memories of being a 2-year-old. But you want to grow. And what you're growing is your consciousness, and the physical body grows with it. You don't kill the consciousness of the baby or of the child to become an adult. You expand on it. And with that, the physical system has to change. Now, when we get what we say ill, when toxicity is built up in our body, it has to be flushed out because it's not going in with balance with what the body wants to do. Now, if we get an inflammation, that means cells are being burnt up, possibly little bits flushed out and repaired to fix that area. If that area tissue becomes really decayed, you might get an infection, which is again the heat there to burn up things. The bacteria come out of that tissue to feed on it, to break it all down because it's no good anymore. And that will get broken down to its smallest pieces, flushed out and regenerated into new life. So what happens then with human behavior that isn't in balance with where the universe wants to go? Now, religious people have put this in certain ways. Regarding an exterior God, judging mankind. But what if just the universe has a path and it also has, like I've said, moral behavior paths? It doesn't want evil, selfish behavior coming out of the ego mind. Then if that isn't on the long-term path of evolution, of the creator's goal, then it will eventually be dealt with. So like eventually you can hold a bit of toxicity and poor tissue in your body, but eventually the body will decide to deal with it because it knows if it doesn't, it won't go on anymore. So if you get an infection, that's the body eating up that bit of tissue, breaking it down to its smallest pieces and getting rid of it. even autoimmune diseases, there's an intelligence behind there. The body will attack some of its own systems because they're not working properly, they're not functioning properly, they're being toxic. So they're not fit for purpose. And there's this thing that seems to be built into nature: when something's not fit for purpose, it gets broken down. So at death, if all is left is your mind, and you've absorbed good principles, led a good life, good thoughts, progressive thoughts, caring thoughts, and you've expanded your consciousness over your life and trying to include morality. None of us are perfect because we're all very, very contracted consciousnesses. But if at least you've made the effort to expand your consciousness, to learn, to become a better person, then that would put you on the universal evolutionary path. If you're evil and willingly evil, then what is the universe? What will the universe be able to utilize that on its path? So obviously, if the universe is judging individual or the collective human consciousness, it's got to decide if that can continue. If you look at humanity at the moment, it's on a bad path. This evil that has taken over the world, I don't believe that will be allowed to persist permanently. These people are so ego-driven that it's like the Garden of Eden. They're challenging God. They're trying to create transhumanism, AI, in a bid to be God and take control of their own lives. But it's an impossible task. You simply cannot beat nature. It's an impossibility. How can a tiny, finite little bit of consciousness, say a 1 IQ, compete with an infinite consciousness of unlimited billions of IQ? It's nonsense. So no matter how evil these people are, and I don't know time spans, but I don't believe the universe and nature will permit the degradation of humanity for forever. There's going to be a time limit. The universe could just send a comet and go boom, well, that ain't working out. You're not fitting in with my plan. You've had your chances. It ain't working. So, and again, going back to death, at death, rather than it being a contraction to nothing of consciousness, if mind is now being released by the limitations of the body, then that would mean potential expansion of consciousness if you're willing to go with it. It is seen as a contraction of consciousness to nothing, but is it an expansion to everything? And depending where you're at, you can expand. I know Patrick's used an illustration once where he said if you imagine a swimming pool, Olympic size, and you'd put a drop of red ink in it, and that's one individual consciousness in the human energy field, you would see the drop in the pool. You go back a week later, it would have completely dissipated, and you wouldn't, the drop would be in there, but it would completely spread out all over and become fully part of the whole again. Just like the baby consciousness is still in you, but it's expanded. So is death an expansion of consciousness if that consciousness is willing to expand into that whole human energy field? So we hold on to our identities, but it's not the death of your identity, it's the expansion of it. Yeah, and there's something inbuilt in us to want to grow and become more. Yeah, people say, oh, obviously I'm not the same person I was. when I was 16 at school, obviously, but that 16-year-old is still there. It's just a lot more expansive. Some people go the whole lives and don't expand at all, unfortunately. So death doesn't necessarily, in that sense, mean the end of it. And again, if you look at biology, I think God, the creator, the universal mind, has a path. And if people aren't going to continue on that path, one way or another, they'll be dealt with. And this is a quote I've used in the book at the end. And I've kind of changed it because the book that got me onto holistic health many years ago was the first edition of The Science of Health and Healing by Trevor Gunn in 2011. That was the first edition. And there's something he wrote regarding illness. So coming into an acute illness. So I've kind of, obviously I've quoted him, I've given the credit, because it's not my quote, but I've slightly changed the quote. Because you have to look at where humanity is, because we're sick, we are sick. And then you can see what are the paths going forward. And I don't believe that it's fixed that humanity will come into a glory era. You know, it's because it's free will built in to this reality. Don't think if humanity fails and dies out, it will change the universal evolutionary processes at all. It'll just go another way. It's got unlimited ways. But we are one vessel. So this is the path, like I say, coming from acute illness, and I'm just looking at the human condition. So humanity resolves the illness, and as a result, their health is improved and they are stronger than they were before. They are less susceptible to these problems and after the illness and more able to deal with them. So that's the ideal solution, that we recognize the problems in the world, the immorality, the banking system, evil people manipulating mankind, our lack of self-responsibility, our lack of morality, all these issues that we are dealing with. If we can deal with them and become stronger, that would be the better evolutionary outcome for humanity. The next option would be humanity resolves the illness, but there has been no learning as such. They are not stronger than they were before. They are effectively carry on as they were before the illness, just as susceptible to surrounding to the illness as they were before, to succumbing to the illness. Sorry, that's my glasses. So this second outcome would be kind of like a political solution, should we say. We've recognized some of the problems, the banking system, the health systems, political systems, but we haven't had any spiritual learning. So it's kind of like a bit of a reset, but we're still susceptible to the same manifestations as evil because we haven't learned. That's kind of another outcome. Humanity's illness is not resolved, and as a result, the health of the individual or the individual humanity is worse than before, and they descend into a lower level of chronic illness, more susceptible than before. So the acute happening, wasn't resolved, there was no learning, or it was just simply resolved but no learning. So now we're into a chronic state of illness, which makes us actually weaker as a humanity. I'm going to guess, I'll finish off, but I'm going to tell you which state I think we're in. Humanity's illness is not resolved, and the patient, which is humanity, is unable to react sufficiently to overcome the problem and dies. So that's the other outcome, which is, that's taken from Trevor Gunner's book, The Science of Health and Healing, regarding nature and what happens with the human beings. Why would any be different to the totality of human beings? That we just die out because we're so weak, immoral, and disempowered that we just can't go on. And that's nature's way of getting rid of what is now worthless and not going with the universal path. So I thought the lockdown before, I was quite excited because I knew the only thing, as I stated, coming out of Wuhan was a story. So I thought, this is an opportunity. This is a big hit to the system. We could see what's going on, deal with it, learn from it, and possibly progress. Humanity could progress. That obviously didn't happen. Another outcome, we could have been dealt with it politically and dealt with a lot of it, but not spiritually, and kind of still be arguing amongst ourselves over all sorts of nonsense. But maybe the monetary system and the political system would have been a bit better. That never happened. But we never learned anything collectively, not individually, collectively. There's been no learning, no spiritual progress. This woke stuff has been obviously manipulated, but descended humanity into a deeper chronic illness now. That's why I think we're at. So I think we're at the third stage where there's so many weak people about now who can descend even further. Yes, there are people weighing up, and you have to balance that. There are people waking up, becoming stronger, and there are people descending and getting weaker. The weak people at the moment in this legal evil system we have, they're the people that have the power in the legal system, because that's what the political system and the people behind it want, this weak humanity. The only solution is, as individuals, we take back our power and our control over our lives. There is no other way. And you do that through doing some of the inner work, taking the moral path. That's what the universe wants. That's what the creator wants. Humanity to waken up, become conscious, and take the moral path that is in harmony with creation itself. The creation, even though, like I've said before, evil has come out of creation because nothing exists apart of creation. Everything is part of creation. It's the free will that humanity has chosen, whether consciously or not. These decisions have been made for, manipulation, for whatever reasons. And nature won't allow that for too long. So unless people individually, collectively, start to see what the natural path is, see what the creator wants from us, and go with it, life is going to get harder and harder. And I could see humanity disappearing. Could be a century, 2 centuries, I have no idea. But you can see that happening. That seems the natural way. And therefore, as an individual salvation, let's forget the collective humanity for a moment. Regardless of what happens on this planet, you've still got your own mind. So as Patrick states, your mind, your brain plays no part in the mind. So when you die, at least if you've tried your best, you've tried to lead the moral way, lead the moral path, follow the moral path, follow nature, what it wants. You've got rid of your ego, stupid brain that thinks it knows better, that's causing devastation. Maybe you as an individual consciousness will be allowed to continue and go in another form somewhere else or whatever. But I think there'll be a judgment day where individual consciousnesses that aren't in line with where the creator wants to go will just be broken down into its smallest pieces, even though they're not pieces, but broken down and not allowed to continue. Now, isn't it funny that the religious people talk about hell as this fiery place? And what does fire do? It burns everything down to its smallest parts. When you have an inflammation and infection, this heat that is burning everything down, breaking it down because it's toxic, it's no good. It's broken down to its smallest pieces and rejuvenated and built it back into something good. Maybe that's what happens at death. So maybe pursuing the moral path is the path to eternal life. These evil people on the planet are trying to pursue it in a physical way by ignoring nature, by acting selfishly and immoral because they think they know better, when it's built into reality that they can't win. It's actually built into the evolution of where the creator wants to go, that they cannot win. Just look at your body. When it gets to a certain point of toxicity, it will start to break things down. You will get ill. And if you don't change your lifestyle, you will die. That is it. Yeah, it's not punishment. That's just how it is. That's how it works. Nature is not interested if you think that's good or bad, because our small little petty minds thinking they know better than the whole universe is just a joke. So the best thing we can do is to align ourselves with what nature wants. And whether humanity continues or not, you as an individual consciousness, maybe you'll be worthy to continue on the universal path of expansion and becoming whole again. Individual choice, freedom of choice, it's all up to us in the end. We're given freedom of choice, whether we know it or not. And the universe will do whatever it wants to do.